There are three basic questions on the table about Ukraine. The first is, what caused the war? Number two is, what's the state of the war today? Where are we at the moment? And then the third question is, what is likely to happen moving forward? And I don't want to talk about the causes of the war. I may say a few words in the conclusion, but I'm not going to talk about the causes of the war. I want to focus mainly on where this train is headed. But to talk about where the train is headed, it's important to talk about where we are today first, and then segue in to talking about the future. And I'm going to make two arguments. The first argument is that there's no chance of a meaningful peace agreement. There may be at some point in the distant future a ceasefire, and that will then turn into a frozen conflict. But the chances of resolving this in any meaningful way are remarkably small, in my opinion. And then my second argument is that the Russians are going to win the war. They're not going to win a decisive victory, but they're going to end up conquering a huge chunk of Ukrainian territory beyond what they already have. And they're going to take Ukraine and make sure it remains a dysfunctional rump state. Let me make three preliminary points before I get to the substance of my talk. First of all, I'm predicting the future. And as we all know, we live in a remarkably uncertain world, and prediction is, a tricky business at best. So just be aware that I'm not speaking the truth. I'm telling you what I think is likely to happen. Second point is, I am in the business of explanation. I'm not trying to justify the behavior of Putin or tell you what I hope happens. I'm simply going to tell you, based on a lot of experience thinking about these issues, what I think is going to happen. And then finally, you want to understand that I really need 4 hours, but John wouldn't give it to me. So I'm going to be quite cursory on a number of issues, and that'll leave plenty of opportunities for you folks to ask me questions, and I'll answer questions for as long as you want and John permits. Okay, so again, what I'm going to do is first focus on where we are today, right? And then I'm going to segue into talking about where this train is headed. With regard to where we are today, there are three main actors in the story. The United States or the West is one, Ukraine is two, and then on the other side, you have the Russians. And what we have to talk about is the threat environment that each one of those actors faces and the goals of each one of those actors as things stand today. In other words, we want to look at Russia, the West, and Ukraine. Focus on what the threat environment is, what their goals are. And then finally, we want to say some words about what the situation is on the battlefield today. And that's the basic outline I want to take you through in talking about the present situation. First of all, with regard to Russia's threat environment, there's no question that the Russians believe that they face an existential threat from the West and from Ukraine working together against them. An existential threat in the sense that they believe that their survival is at stake. And I can unpack later, if people would like, what is meant by the term survival. But there's no question that Putin himself uses the phrase existential threat to talk about what the Russians are facing. Now, there are two layers to that existential threat. The first layer is the pre-war layer. And that one is all about the West's efforts, and here the United States was really in the driver's seat, to make Ukraine a Western bulwark on Russia's border. And that strategy or policy, of course, included NATO expansion, EU expansion, and turning Ukraine into a pro-Western liberal democracy. Those three policies packaged together were all designed, again, to make Ukraine a Western